Do you have a mic out?
I do not.
You have an iPhone?
Oh, this is a
Android?
Galaxy. Yeah.
Can't help.
Um.
Set up for iPhone.
Okay. But I'm a USB-C, so.
Yeah, I don't have that.
Oh, you don't? Okay, I do.
iPhones don't have that.
All right. It's okay. I've got it. We'll do it. We'll do it. We got it. We're good. Can we let them know I'm running to get power and I'll be right back?
I have power. I have power.
The audio is good.
Oh, good. Is that good? Okay.
Yeah, it's live. So you ready?
All right.
Actually, take this.
I might take this down a little bit.
Are we live?
You are now.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
ESPN and Ocho ain't got nothing on us. In fact, I'm surprised ESPN hasn't contacted corporate. Just saying.
For those tuning in, the virtual Herald is entertaining us and won't let us get started. All right. All right. So thank you everyone for attending the Board of Directors and Officers meet and greet here at On Tier's 12th night. Excuse me. Thank you. I'm very excited that we have a few of our board members and one of our society officers here. Up until a week ago, we had a full slate of board, minus our newest. Director O'Shea is receiving her Pelican this weekend, our newest director, so congratulations to her. But starting this week, we started to have more and more board members not able to make it, either because of the weather or because of the situation with the Max 9s. So it started, so I am very grateful that we have our two directors, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and our society seneschal, and then myself. And so what I'd love to do is take a moment to let them introduce themselves, and then we will get started.
Hi, everybody. In the SCA, I'm known as Phelan Gervais. Most people know me as Pug. Mundanely, I am Pug Bainter. Yes, that is my name. I am from Onsteora. I live in Austin, Texas. I am the ombudsman for Ethelmark, East, Glen Auburn, and Trimaris, DEIB.
And he's my ombudsman.
And the Herald.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm in the SCA. I'm Ulrich von Brandenburg. At the corporate level, I am KG Shepherd. I go by Shep. You guys you'll probably hear them call me Shep several times. I'm the ombudsman for, it just changed, for On Tier. Hi, guys. I'm the ombudsman for On Tier, West, and Caid, Marshlet. Slower. Yay. Marshlet and the Pierce Committee. Modernly, I'm from Huntsville, Alabama. In the SCA, I'm from Meridiades. And nice to see everybody.
Hi, I am Liz Schreier. I'm the Society Seneschal in the SBA. I'm known as Elisette Enindirmata, and I guess I'm everybody's ombudsman in a way. I hail from the Kingdom of Calontir. Modernly, that's St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm glad to be here.
And again, I'm so grateful that y'all made it. Thank you for coming. My name is Charles DeBourbon, and I am the corporate DEIB officer, and I am from On Tier. This is my home, and I will be facilitating this meet and greet and Q&A session. Before we start, while we have an opportunity, I want to take just a little bit of time before we kick off the questions to explain a couple of things about how we work, because I think that will help some folks frame their questions in a way that we can answer more appropriately and more accurately. You may have noticed that Liz identified herself as the Society Seneschal, and I identified myself as corporate DEIB. And there's actually a difference between a corporate officer and a society officer. So here's how the infrastructure, here's how the governance of the society works at the corporate big C level. At the top, we have the board of directors, headed up by our chairman of the board, which is Director Falcon. Reporting to the board is the society president, Duke John the Bear Killer. Bear Killer is not the president of the board. He reports to the board. He is the president of the society. Reporting to John the Bear Killer is the rest of us in different ways. If you're on the society side, Society Seneschal, Liz is a bit interesting because she kind of straddles both corporate and society. A society officer has game-facing responsibilities. What I mean by game-facing is what we're doing right now. The play, the showing up, the events, the classes, all of the things that we do, the fun part, that is a society officer. A corporate officer doesn't have game-facing responsibilities. Our job, it's like our corporate officers, IT, legal, comms, myself. And I know you're like, well, Charles, but you have a lot of game-facing responsibilities, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. That's why we're restructuring. Jessica Van Hatten, who was my predecessor, and myself I will be the last corporate DEIB officer. Jessica and I will be the only two who will ever have held that title, because we are moving to a society DEIB officer, because there is a lot of game-facing responsibilities that I shouldn't have. But because of how we were structured initially, because the board of directors can create a corporate position as needed, but to create a society position, you need corpora changes. And so it was easier at the time to create a corporate DEI officer. But the thing is, we've reached a stage in our maturity and in the work that we're doing that we need to create that society officer, because that means all of the individual kingdom officers will now report up to the society officer rather than reporting to either a seneschal or a crown. And we learned in on tier why that's a problem, having your DEI folks reporting to a crown. Our DEI folks, our DEIB folks need to report to the society DEIB officer so that we have a consistent strategy and we're coming at it from the same direction. That's not what happens now, because I don't have anybody who reports to me. I'm a corporate officer. So we need to make this infrastructural change. So I wanted to take just an opportunity to kind of explain the difference between a society officer and a corporate officer and how we report up. And there's a lot of misconceptions that, like, John is the president of the board. He is over all the things. He is not. He reports to the board. And then we report to him, and then it's broken out to either you have game-facing responsibilities or non-game-facing responsibilities. So I just wanted to take a moment to explain that. A lot of folks don't understand how we work, and I was like, well, I have a captive audience, so let's just do a quick education. Absolutely. What can I answer for you?
Can you define ombudsman for me?
Ombudsman is the person you can complain to.
Okay.
You can bring up
Representative.
anything and everything. We may or may not be able to help,
Uh-huh.
but we can at least direct you to the correct place.
Excellent.
I actually have something, just
Yeah,
to make sure
absolutely,
we're
please.
setting expectations, especially since we're streaming. The proposal is to have a society.
Yes.
DEIB.
Thank you.
We have to wait for the commentary, then the 7 people have to vote on whether that happens or not. So
I'm jumping the gun. He is correct. We are.
most of us agree with it. I think we'll be fine. Now, we're going to change a few people between now and then, but we'll see.
Yeah, so commentary. So if you haven't put in commentary, the restructuring changes, because it wasn't just the society DEI officer. We're also potentially shifting and not creating, but shifting the Chatelaines office to a greater society office. Currently, the Chatelaine reports into another office. Generally, at the local and kingdom levels, it's your seneschal. However, if as an organization, we really believe that recruiting and retention is key to our mission, the one officer who is in charge of this should probably be a greater officer with all of the shadow lanes reporting up to them so that we can have a consistent recruiting and retention strategy. That was part of this package that is out for commentary right now. And so to Director Bainter's point, it's not done, it is out for commentary because we are making changes to Kapora and it requires a 60-day commentary period. And it's open right now. I think it opened about 2 weeks ago. And it will go for the full 60 days. Once we're done, we will review it and then vote.
I'm posting the link to the commentary on the virtual Herald as soon as I find it.
Brilliant. The Virtual Herald said that they will be posting a link to the proposal in the commentary. And this proposal is the last of a suite of initiatives that existed before I stepped up from my predecessor in the board before. And so it was, kind of my job this year was to get those across the finish line, get some institutional structure in place so that next year I can begin doing the infrastructural work to create a diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging organization that is what we need. So with that in mind, I would like to go ahead and start with the Q&A portion. Please feel free to ask any questions. There are some things that I'm going to tell you are not going to be answered, just FYI, it won't. We will not be answering questions about individual investigations or banishments or R&D. That is not appropriate for this environment. We will not field questions that are around the way trying to circumvent that. And the reason I'm saying this is the Penzic meet and greet, I still have a little trauma from. So I am, that wasn't my kingdom. This is my kingdom. And I know that y'all won't step up to me. I'm saying that this is, let's be polite. There are a lot of feelings. There are a lot of feelings about some of the things we're going to talk about. And that's fine. We can have big feelings, but we are adults and we should be treating each other with at least a modicum of kindness and at least extend that, because I've already had folks going, well, I'm going to come there and I'm going to give them a piece of my mind. No, you're not. You can ask a polite question and we will have a great discourse, but we're not going to come up here and treat us poorly. All right.
You can come up after the meet and greet.
After the meet and greet and treat as poorly as you want, but but not during this. So with that in mind, if folks have questions, it would be amazing if you could kind of come right here. And then, just so we can get you closer to the live stream so people can hear the Q&A, and then we can move forward with the answers.
Sure. Hi, Andromeda Lesbos on here. And my understanding is you are all nominated to your positions. What inspired you to take and seek those positions, and what was it you were hoping to make better within the SCA as a whole?
I'll go first. To clarify, only board members are nominated, and they can be self-nominated. Just like officers apply to something, board members can. I did this because I was the party person that came into the SCA. I dressed in funny clothes, got drunk in the woods in the middle of nowhere, Texas. And at some point I grew up and I wanted to give back to this society that had been doing great things for me over the decades. And so now I'm giving back in the best way I can.
Well, let's go first. Go second, just because.
Okay. I have kind of an interesting history in that I was on the board from 2002 to 2005. I don't have any sort of business background. I was an elementary school teacher, and I ended up on the board because I had been a Kingdom Seneschal, and people had said, you might be good for corporate offices, but you should get some corporate experience, and why don't you let yourself be nominated to the board? And so eventually I got put on the board. I did not enjoy my experience, largely because of that lack of any business. I didn't feel like I had enough time to understand what was going on with meetings and so forth. And I sort of ran away screaming and said, I'm never going to do anything above kingdom again, ever. I swear to God. And I kept that down for about 12, 13 years. And then I became my Kingdom Seneschal's emergency deputy. And in that position, and I started doing investigations for the SCA, I saw some things that I thought could be improved. And when the position came open, I applied for it. And by the way, there are about 2 or 3 more days on the application for my successor. So if you know somebody who would make a great
You
Kingdom
want me to
Seneschal,
post that link too?
Right?
You want me to post that link too?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And here's the reason I let Liz go before me, because I kind of tie into her. First off, I said that I'm going to skip back a little bit. First off, I love the SCA. I really do. I've been in the SCA for 24 years. The SCA has given me most of my friends. Currently, I married my wife in the SCA. Sorry, I'm going to get emotional. It's just a thing. I married my wife in the SCA. My best friends are in the SCA. And I've had several opportunities to serve on a kingdom level. I was one of the people that was also in contention for the job that Liz got, which got me the opportunity right after the pandemic happened. She reached out to me and asked me if I would consider being her emergency deputy, because I was one of the people that was also up for that position. I said yes. I had been on the board nominee list since I think 2017, and I was, during that my tenure as her deputy, as her emergency replacement deputy, someone put me back on the list. I'd fallen off. They put me back on the list, and the board, God love them, or whoever loved them, completely missed that I was on the nominee list until I stepped out of a meeting in the executive session one day, because they were like, "Well, where's Shep going?" And they're like, "Well, he's on. You're discussing candidates, and he's on the nominee list." Thanks for that, Liz. And shortly after, I had an absolutely horrible interview, I thought, where I was 100% positive that I would not get put on the board. And so when I was offered, I was honored to have the opportunity to step up and work with the people that I've been working with for almost a year at that point. And it just so happened that I had a skill set that they needed at the time. And that's generally what the biggest portion is of getting on. You have a skill set that we need at the time. Modernly, I am an audiovisual engineer. I just recently retired from NASA. I was not actually with NASA. I was a contractor for NASA, but and that's what we needed at the time, as we thought we were going to get back to more in-person meetings, and we'd be able to do a hybrid meeting, which we just pulled off last October, and it went pretty well for the first one. But that's where part of my skill set for that came in, and my experience also in education and business. So that's how you end up here. One last thing about that. When I say your personal or modern skill set is one of the biggest things that brings you in, we really desperately needed an HR person, or just a little while back, we were able to get Director Capps, because she had everything that we needed at the time. Boy, did we need it.
Mhm.
So I really was hoping her and several of the other directors could have been here.
And I will wrap this question up. I didn't want this job. I did not. This was like, I do this modernly. This is what I do. I work in DEI strategy for a very large tech company. And my job is to work with business leaders who are often reluctant to make change and work through using data and using insight to work with them to build out their DEI strategies for the next year. And we had some we had some complications with our first attempt at starting, creating the DEI office. And there were things that happened that I was like, I don't want to do the job because I don't want to do my job and my hobby. But right now, in this moment, to follow Jessica, I think I have the skill, Zara, I think I have these very unique skill sets that the SCA needs right in this moment. I don't want to be the face of DEI for the SCA. I just happen to have the skill sets to do a job that I do mundanely. And it is why, and just for the record, I will not be stepping up into the society, if we create it, the society DEIB role. I'm going to stay in this role. We're going to rename it, but focus on big projects, long-term projects that will move equity forward and inclusion forward, that your game-facing leaders don't have the bandwidth or capacity to deliver. Let me give you an example real quick. One of the initiatives that in that suite of initiatives that I mentioned that from my predecessor was creating mandatory, and mandatory sounds very dire, but creating training for our leaders in the SCA board on down to kingdom level, including crowns. We need a fundamental fluency in working in this space. This isn't, we're trying to convince you DEI is right. It is how to keep you out of DEI jail as a member of middle or upper management. Let's call it what it is. As a member of middle or upper management, we have to have some fluency. So if we build this training, but where do we set it? Where do we stick this training? How do we track? How do we know everybody's been completed? How do we know that they have completed? We need a learning management system. We're a darn educational organization that has been in place for 58 years, and we don't even have a learning management system. We're talking about this with the board. This is a proposal I brought to the board, and we're talking through this. Those types of initiatives need to sit somewhere where you have ops support. So when I say ops, I mean operations or the game. And to support ops, you need somebody on the corporate side of the house, looking at the long game, looking at strategy, working with the board to develop strategy and saying, hey, I'm going to take this project that's going to take 2 or 3 years to deliver, and I will take this and I will hire the deputies and we will come together and deliver it. And I can support every society officer and help them move their work towards diversity, equity, and inclusion forward by doing this. I am not going to step up into that role at some point. I may have to at interim while we're looking for someone, but I don't want to be the face. And so that's why I did this. To answer the question, that's why I did this, was because I felt like in this moment, for a very abbreviated time, I had a very unique set of skills that would be very valuable to the SCA. And you can ask the directors. I wrote them a 5-page cover letter with data, with so much, and why they shouldn't hire me. And they did. Because I said the way the job is scoped right now, I won't do it because it's not appropriate for an organization this size. We have 20 some odd thousand paid members and that many more in non-paid who play. We are about a 50,000 participant organization. We've got to build this. We've got to build a strategy. We need a top-down strategy. And if you really want to dig into that, please attend the DEIB Collegium that's coming up. I will be giving the keynote and we will be talking about my vision, our vision for the next 2 years in my tenure in this new role. And I will be laying out, now that we've got this suite of proposals that I wanted to dedicate my first year to, now we're moving into things like, how do we build roadmaps that we know that we're working through? And how do you feed those roadmaps? Well, you feed them through affinity groups. So we need to get affinity groups set up, official ones that are working with the office to provide input and prioritization so that this office and any of the officers can look at this and begin working through this and with transparency and updates on this is what we're doing to move equity and inclusion along. This is now where my focus will go now that I've been able to kind of do the final little bit on a very long journey of getting these proposals through the board and out for commentary. So that's why I did it. I love the SCA so much. It was the safe space I needed to come out 30 years ago. I love this. That's why I'm doing my mundane job in the SCA, is because I love this freaking organization. Sometimes it makes me crazy and angry, but I love it. And that's why.
I'll be posting a link to the DEIB Collegium on the virtual Herald.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hi.
I'm Illuminata. Excuse me, may I turn this? Sure. And I hail from Caid. My question is not mine, but my new husband, this is his third event. And-
Welcome.
And he doesn't mobilize very well, so he asked me to come and ask
Sure.
a question. And he says, where does the buck stop? Where does the buck stop? Within the organization, the corporate, yes.
He also has his hand up. Sure.
No,
No, no, the answer is no, apparently. It's beautiful, great.
But they don't show. As a former music educator and an assistant principal for the state of Colorado, I knew, should I make a mistake, and someone was legally after me, they would not come to me, they would not come to my school, they would look for, shall we say, the deepest pockets. They would go to the school board. My question being, quite simply, where in SEA does the buck stop? Oh, by the way, thank you for your time.
You're very welcome.
So as with any corporation, it stops with the board of directors. There are different places that there are responsibilities below the board of directors, but all bucks stop with the board of directors. So if there's a lawsuit, we're directly involved. We do have an officer and executive insurance to help us with those types of cases. But we are the ones on the hook, not only while we're in the office, but also after we're out of the office for decisions we made while we were on the board. And that includes for officers below us. And sometimes we have to have conversations with some of the officers. If that is not the right decision, you need to think about that some more. And sometimes it goes well and sometimes it doesn't. We move forward.
Next question. Your Excellency.
Hi, everyone. I'm Garen. I'm landed cornet of this lovely barony we are standing in. And I wanted to talk a little bit or ask about, Charles and Zara published a fantastic strategy document that was really inspiring reading. I'm wondering whether or not that is on the roadmap for the society, not DEI, but the broader game we play. If we are talking about long-term strategy, documenting that from a vision perspective, and what you'd like to see the SCA look like in 5 years.
I'm not sure I saw the strategies that you're talking about in particular. So we are definitely trying to make sure the SCA exists. That's our first step. And that had some doubts for a while, given how modern society was running. Hopefully we're moving past that. We are trying to be more inclusive, and that includes all types of inclusivity. We have people who are getting older in our lives. We're less mobile than we used to be. We have people of different cultures that are joining and becoming part of it. And we need to be a place that those people are all feel welcome and enjoy the hobby that we have been part of as a nonprofit for however long each of us has been in. And we're trying to make sure that our officers have that type of mindset as we're moving through this. And it's slow, unfortunately. We move at the speed of bureaucracy. And unfortunately, our big meetings are only once a quarter. So initiatives don't move as fast as people want them to. They don't move as fast as we want them to. And then we are restricted by things in our rules of it has to go out for 60 days. We all know this is what we want, but we have to put it out. And then we have to read all that commentary to see what our membership said. And sometimes people bring up topics that we don't necessarily thought through. And that's why we have to put out commentary. But sometimes we may make the decision that, okay, it's not all of our population is going to be happy. We can't make them happy. You can't satisfy everybody. So we make the decision we think is best for advancing the group into what we see as the future. And that is a place that people feel welcome and want to be and want the next generation to grow up in as well. At least that's what I'm seeing it. As we sometimes say with the board members, as the board, I'm one of 7. So that's where I'm going.
As 2 of 7, that's gonna be my board name now. One of the reasons I like going behind Pug is he says a lot of the things that I think to say, but a lot nicer, but a lot more eloquent than I say them. My goal when I joined the board was to, like he said, make sure that we're still here 5, 10, 15 years from now, and that other people are getting the experience that when I say the experience that I got, what I mean is finding the people in their lives that I found in mine. So having that experience, we want to do the things that can keep this game as accessible to everyone, both physically and monetarily, and there's a constant struggle in that, and that's one of the things that we do on a monthly basis. When we meet monthly, either by a video conference or for a conference call, or quarterly, is what we're discussing isn't just the things that we see, like the Zara and Charles's idea, but it's also all of the things that everyone else has sent in. All of the things, there's often a discussion of, hey, I didn't see this anywhere else, but I got this in my inbox from being an ombudsman or whatever. A lot of those, someone asked about ombudsman, I wanted to say, a lot of times we'll get an email, and if I'm only CC'd on an email, I assume that's specifically because you just want me to know about it. You don't want me to get involved. And then I push that to the correct officer, often Liz. But I just wanted to cover that right quick. But that's what we do. And often in situations like that, especially if it's in Charles's expertise area, we wait for him to bring that to us before I don't want to step on anything that Charles does, because he does it, but he does it fantastically. And I don't, if something, needs to be brought to us, I trust him to bring it to us in that realm. But if I'm seeing something like that and I'm not hearing from Charles, then that's my job to ask Charles, why am I not hearing about this? And I've never had to do that.
Not yet.
Not yet. There's time.
If I could just add a little bit of clarification, the strategy document you're talking about, this is going to answer your question. That is Zara's. I haven't published mine yet. It will go to them. It will go to the board first before I publish anything. That what you're talking about was the document that my predecessor wrote, and that's still the only strategy document that has been published for the DEIB office. But mine is coming. I needed to, get through kind of this restructuring, and I will actually be talking about a little bit of it, actually a good bit of it, at the DEIB Collegium. Now, your question was, will there be other people doing strategy documents like me? I would love to see that. And the best I can do is lead by example. Jess, I keep calling her Jess because it's Zara. She started when she has a strategy document in place. My next step is to have the next strategy document that built on the one prior. But that's not mine. It is totally Zara's, and I will be publishing mine once it goes to them, probably late Q1 of this year. So late February, early March. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your
hospitality, by the way.
Mine's a follow-up to hers.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Taylor.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Bridget Ross. I'm from Ontario, currently living in Atlanta. I have kind of a follow-up question. While inclusivity is great and all of that, the next, my phrases, said it so succinctly to Abia. As you noted, our base is aging. Our volunteers are aging. Does the board has the board talked about engagement and how to engage our newer members? Not only trying to get more newer members, but how to engage them so that they volunteer, because the volunteer pool is shrinking, especially as I'm one of them that are aging out to be able to do as much as we did before.
Since you are eternal.
You are
So
sweet.
that's part of what Charles has proposed, is to help promote the shadowing, to create more of that engagement and more consistency of engagement across the campus. So we have thought about it. We have not made significant steps forward, but we're starting to make steps forward.
Mhm.
Yeah. we do.
Strategy paper for that.
So to add on to that, that is the Shadow Lanes strategy. That is in the Shadow Lanes remit, but not right now because they're not a greater officer. So we got to fix that first. And then we can talk about strategies. And here's the thing with the current society Shadow Lanes, she and I have had many conversations about not just engaging our new members, how do we reignite the passion in our older members? So this is something that keeps me up at night. This is one of the things in my current role that keeps me up at night, is how do we engage with our new members?
It's a societal issue because
Yes.
even in the workplace, that's the big problem is engaging the paid employees. And so I think that just translates right into how can we better engage our volunteers?
But to answer your question directly, yes, we talk about it. We talk about it. I talk about it. It was why honestly, it was one of the reasons we added the B to the office, right? It was like inclusion gets you recruitment. Belonging gets you retention. And so that's one of the reasons that we were like, right, let's rescope this role appropriately. Let's add the B. So we've got to be thinking not just about getting people in the door, how do they stay? How do they stay? And so we definitely talk.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I'm Mistress Isolde Taylor Woodhill, and I'm from the Canton Barony, actually. So to tag on to that, actually, I had two questions that she asked tangentially around one of them. But as a part of that, I'll comment because I'm also working the live stream, or I'm in the live stream comms over here. You have 30 people who are watching this right now.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank y'all for watching.
That's how many we get at a board meeting. Yep.
See, there you go. So that is the subtle difference to my question, is not just how do you engage new members, but how do you increase the communication with the player base? Specifically, the Grand Council was taken away, right? And I hear you're talking about it, all that kind of stuff. So I will just kind of add it would be good to see some kind of structural way for people to participate, not just in sending comments, but in a communications channel. So then my second question is, there's a lot of turnover in the SCA. There's turnover of crowns every 6 months. There's turnover of major officers every 2 years. There's turnover of board members on an ongoing basis. And you referenced something earlier that I've heard, which is that by the time, when something gets started, by the time it may come to decision, the entire board may be different. How do we improve the knowledge maintenance across the management of the SCA?
I know I can talk to parts of that.
Right.
I don't know that I can cover all of it. So one of the things that has helped with the board having that knowledge, so board members change every 6 months. We're in for 3.5. So that does help. We're trying to improve the cycle time from when a decision is conceptualized until it becomes a proposal or reality. It's tough because we don't all think the same, but we're working on it. But all that information is being kept in a central technology repository. We have SharePoint. So when we come in, I don't like it. but it's the technology we have and most corporations do. When we come in, it's all there for us to go look at least back to a certain point when records start getting lost because they weren't paper. So some of us go back and look at those so we can revisit previous discussions. But not all of it is kept for certain legal reasons. Decisions are kept, such as on sanctions and stuff, but not the actual discussions. But for proposals, those are generally kept, the various iterations of the proposals and why some of the things were changed and not. So we are improving that. I think that as we mature a learning management system, that we will have a much better method to onboard new board members and new corporate officers and society officers down to the kingdom over time, so that they have a consistency of what the expectations are, what the current strategies are, and where we're going, and how we're moving them forward. So that's at least part two. It's not all, we're still in the process.
And that's the big part. It's, as you know, as an organization, I don't know about on tier, but I know in my kingdom, Barony, we were horrible about keeping good records of what had happened before. When I stepped up as kingdom seneschal of Barony, I love my people. I got 7 big boxes and a computer that was. I got 7 big boxes. 2 of them were plastic totes. The rest of them were old bank boxes. Right, they had stuff going back to from 87 to 97. I won't say that they were filed, but they were all in boxes that were supposed to be filing boxes. And I got a computer that I stepped up in 2017, and I got a computer from 2005 that had XP on it. And when the monitor wouldn't work, you had to plug it into another monitor, and then I didn't have the password. There's a whole story that goes along with this. But that was SCA record keeping for a long time at the kingdom level. And it's having moved up to the society level, at least we have SharePoint. And we're moving a lot of our officers onto the corporate side of things, our society officers onto the corporate side of things into our SharePoint, whereas before they were in Google and everything was just kind of everywhere. So we've got a wonderful IT manager now in Sam Davis, and he is getting everyone where they need to be so that we have the corporate memory and we have the institutional knowledge that we lacked at some point in the past. Not knowledge, but memory, right? Right. So it's a slower process than we would like, but it turns out as you learn if you ever get on the board, everything is a slow process.
Did that computer also have WinApp, and did it kick the llama's ass?
That computer barely turned on.
For levity.
I know. It could play Minesweeper.
Oh, good.
I could just add one tiny piece to answer that question. We're investing in technologies slowly, but we are to do that exact thing. It baffles me that we are 58 years old and we still don't. I know you're like 68. So first of all, you need to understand, I have known Pug since I started. When I came out, Pug was in the room. So we are investing in technology to do this thing. And because I think we all recognize institutional knowledge in the SCA sucks. Yeah. And so I think that the short answer is we are investing in technology. That's kind of what we're talking about slowly, but I think we all recognize, yeah, we probably should do this. So, yeah.
Liz, do you have, from your point of view, because you have a very different point of view than we do.
I do have a very different, in my case, a lot of the old records do exist, and I've always been a kind of a policy wonk. So I have been through files and files on the seneschal stuff, but in my job, you have to have, first of all, the person who's willing to do that research. And not everybody who's been society seneschal, I would dare say, has been. I have Society Seneschal reports back to, I think, 2003 are in the files, the quarterly reports. Other things, it goes back to about 2013 on the email. And a lot of, since almost all of my business is done in one way or another via email, that 10 years of Outlook, if that ever died, we'd have a problem. Because that's where a lot of it is. I try to back important things up on the SharePoint, but
We do backups, so.
yeah.
Just quickly, thank you again for coming, for the time that you've given for us. We appreciate it, really.
Thank you for having me.
I am Vashti of Wywood, a couple miles south of here. And I'm an archer. And every time, well, first off, if I didn't want to be a marshal to help at archery practice, I would not be renewing my membership. I want to know where the omnibus peerage is. Every time I hear anyone speak about equality and retention, I see archers walking away every day. I see equestrians walking away every day. I would walk away if I didn't want to help at my local practice. And so my question is, how can you talk about equality with a straight face while you're denying the archers, the thrown weapons, and the equestrians a chance to be equal? How can you talk about equality with a straight face and retention? Our practices have gone from 30 or 40 people 5, 6, 7 years ago to 10 because people don't want to stay in the SCA because of the omnibus peerage. We are waiting for another poll. We are waiting for whatever. It's a delay for 10 or 12 years. And so I want to know why it is so impossible to make a path for archers, thrown weapons, and equestrians to be equal in this society, and how you can ignore them and talk about retention, and how you can ignore them and talk about equality. That's my question.
I would like to also support this. My name is Ariane the Wanderer. I'm a member of the Order of the Laurel, Order of the Pelican. I'm a member of the Order of the Grey Goose Shaft. The Order of the Grey Goose Shaft recognizes martial skills in target archery, martial skills in combat archery, martial skills in thrown weapons in both target and combat, siege, and equestrian archery. We have members of all of this. In 2016, I realize none of you were here. We put forth a proposal, the omnibus period. The outcome of that was a poll and the eventual creation of the Master's Defense. That was a good step. But we are still left without a path period. I am a double peer. I know how to get here. I can't get there with my martial skills. I am a good combat archer, and a good target archer, and good with thrown weapons. Hated on the field. So yes, I want to support this, and I realize you have a proposal before you. And I'm baffled by why it's not published, first off. Why has there been so much secrecy? As the members of the organization can't see the proposal. This is a difficult question. I realize. I thank you all for being here because this is not a fun question.
I shoot 3 or 4 times a week. Archery is my thing. And I hate the SCA for closing the door. For me, I have kingdom level awards for arts and science, for service. I was a kingdom chronicler for 5 years. And I want to walk away. If I didn't love my community of archers, I would walk away from the SCA. And it's because at every turn, that door is closed on us. and thrown weapons and equestrians. At every turn, the door is closed. Every year.
So, I am I'm the ombudsman for the Peers Committee. I have sat in on their meetings. And I'm in every, board meeting. There is a proposal in front of us. We got it, on the 20th of December. Which was a special meeting called with the Peers Committee.
Sorry, can I ask?
Sure.
What proposal is that? Is it like the second or third proposal that has been put
The
out?
first one we've gotten since February.
But in the last 10 years?
I can't speak to the last 10 years.
Because there was a Valiance proposal, there was a omnibus proposal, there was.
I'm referring to the proposal by the current Peers Committee, which I believe stood up in 2016 or 17. And that's what they worked on was from the standpoint, their last work was from the standpoint of the 2020 census. And they put forth two wording sets of proposals, and once they got, the board at the time looked at that, which I believe was right before I stepped up. They went out to the populace for commentary. The populace gave us their commentary, and the board. Just a second, sir. Let me finish this, and just come up and get in line. And
Clarify.
Okay.
The populace didn't give their feedback. The proposal was put out and pulled 48 hours later. There was
Yeah, I remember that,
Yeah.
actually. Uh-huh.
Yeah, but a lot of this is before your time.
Right. So I know I saw commentary on it, because that's how the board at the time based their information to give to the Peers Committee. But anyway, I personally, and I cannot speak for the board on this, but I know I'm a board member, so somewhere someone's going to say the board said, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's fine. I want to see that path forward, right? But, and I know this is going to sound horrible, but it has to be the right path forward. So we don't want to have to go through this again with any other activity. So what I can tell you is that at the next board meeting, which is the 27th, 28th, so we're going to review that proposal. And at that point, I can't tell you what will happen, but I can tell you that the other board members are seeing it. We're here. We hear you, and we're gonna find a way forward. I can't guarantee you what that way forward will be. But everyone on the board understands the seriousness of this and the damage that not having a path forward can do to our organization. Whatever that path forward will be. There may be another polling, or there may not. I don't know. We haven't made that decision. But if there is, it will be a more directed polling so that it is clear what the outcome of that polling is. There will be no one that can go, well, I'm not sure, if I would interpret it like that, it's going to be a more concise thing so that we get the information that we have to have. If we don't do a polling, it's possible that the board will put the current proposal out. It's possible that they won't. I know what my polling is going to be. I can't say what my polling is going to be because I'm not going to say that, but I know what my statement is going to be, and we'll see what the other 6 directors have to say. Okay.
From my point of view, I am a member of the orders of Pelican, Laurel, and Defense. I saw what happened with the Order of Defense and the challenges that they had and how long it took them. Some of it is, there is a concern of across the society, is there a population density? We have places where you have wonderful stuff, and in Osceola, we have them for some of those communities, but not necessarily all. And some of the concern is to make sure that we have a consistency across all the kingdoms. The Order of Defense was not created until rapier existed in all kingdoms. So there wants to be a certain population density across the entire population, not just in localized areas. That is a concern, and it's been discussed as part of the proposals and stuff like that. So that is one of the things. I remember the original omnibus. I was a previous member of the Grand Council, so I've been through many of these conversations before, and will continue to probably until the future. Because even if we create the current instantation, there'll be something else behind that. It's just a matter of what it is and when it is. But we are moving forward. As he mentioned, we have had a little concern from our side. The board's committee has not necessarily given us communications at appropriate times for us to act on them at board meetings. The populist-driven ones, such as the Order of the Omnibus and the Order of Valiance, we have read those, and we have taken those into consideration, not just now, but in the past. And so we are listening, and we are hoping to have corpora-specific verbiage that we can put out for the 60-day commentary to see what happens. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if I'm speaking out of course right now, and if I am, I apologize. There have been a couple proposals we've received, and we have not put them out for commentary because they didn't meet what we had requested. And so that's why we've had multiple meetings with the committee trying to refine that verb. So we're trying to move it forward. I understand it's frustrating. I am a target archer. I'm a combat archer. I have been a siege engineer. I'm not anymore. So I understand. We hope to have an ability to move forward.
So we'll step back in here and say something that I'm just going to say it. So we've received proposals that would not pass the board, would not pass corpora, and so we have to turn those back. And there's no sense in publishing anything that's not going to go anywhere. It can't go anywhere without breaking some other rule or interpretation. So that's part of why you haven't seen anything.
Can I weigh in on something that I would just like to address?
You said, how do we talk about equity and inclusion with a straight face? I'll tell you exactly how I do it. I'm not going to lie, this question is something I'm really excited to answer because it's not binary. I can work on the lived experience and I can work on the experiences of a Black Scadian. And that is how I work on it. It doesn't mean that just because you're not getting what you want in this moment, equity's not happening in the SCA and work's not happening. I'm working on behalf of people of color, the LGBTQIA plus population, people with disabilities, veterans, people of different socioeconomic statuses. This is what's covered under DEI. Your path to peerage, it is absolutely something that I care deeply about. But using the language of equity and inclusion and asking me how I can sleep at night while you don't have a path to peerage, while I'm working on helping actual marginalized communities find their way to this game, that's how I sleep at night, because it's not a binary. We have work to do, but there's other work that can be done. That's how I sleep at night. That's how we talk about this with a straight face. I hope that makes sense, because I absolutely support this idea of a peerage. But I do talk about equity and inclusion very seriously with a straight face, because I'm doing a lot of work. We are doing a lot of work in a lot of different areas. It's not all or nothing. And this is very important to me. But I also want to address that question asked in the manner that it was. How do we talk about this with a straight face? That's how. Mm-hmm.
And we can talk more after.
Sure. Thank you for coming. And please bring it.
We're definitely working on it.
How to return.
We're supposed to run until 2, right?
I don't know.
No, we are supposed to run from one. I thought it was 1 to 2.
We are at 2:10.
Yes,
So we are over.
Do we have until 2:30?
Until 2:30. Okay, awesome.
Hi.
I'm Julia Eleonora Benici Garagona. I am relatively new, coming up on my year and a half in the SBA. Thank you. And I've played mostly in Blatha and when you're here and I'm here. And as someone who suffers from the volunteer disease Bellevue, I would love to know more about like when it comes to taking on a corporate or board position or a society position. When people are looking at that and considering that, what should they know about like the time and the energy and the finances that they will need to personally commit in order to properly be the person in that role?
Yeah,
So as far as the personal expenses, the corporation, even in lean times, will cover most of those. I personally am fortunate enough to be in reasonably good financial situation aside from that, so I've declined a certain amount of support I could have got. But a lot of it can be covered by the corporation. So as far as monetary expenses, there's not a lot. Board members, they don't get paid at all. I should make that very clear because I keep reading people saying, oh, the board members get all these salaries. No, those guys don't get paid. I get a stipend. It's not a huge stipend, but I get a stipend. But so as far as, expenses, there aren't a lot of monetary expenses to being on it, on one of these positions. It's the things you need are covered. The corporation will cover it. As far as time, that's going to vary hugely depending on the job. When I don't know what it's like for directors now. When I was on the board, it was very intense in the couple of 3 weeks before a meeting. Lots and lots of reading, lots and lots of considering and writing of motions and that sort of thing. And the rest of the time it was under 10 hours a week, I would say, answering and reading emails and so forth. I think it may be more now, but I'm not sure of that. These guys could tell you that. Some of the officer positions are quite time consuming. My job takes a lot of my time. And I'm sorry, you had a third thing in there and I kind of lost track of what it was.
Energy, I know we have a lot of people who either have like physical disabilities or who are, as I like to say, neurospicy. And so level of energy that a commitment requires is something that I think a lot of people really want to be able to consider before going, yes, I can fully commit to this because I know that I will be able to meet the energy levels that are required of me in order to do the job properly.
Again, it's going to depend on the particular job. As far as energy, as far as physical things go, they're almost all on, much of the work's done online. So, you need to be computer savvy. You need to be able to deal with a lot of email and that sort of thing, but it's not, it takes not a lot of physical ability beyond that. And again, it's going to vary tremendously by what your job is. I would imagine the society marshal probably has a little bit more physical job than, say, I do. I spend most of my time at a computer. As far as mental energy, again, that's hard to say. That's really going to depend on the person and the job. Some of them will take a lot and some of them will take a little, and a lot of it is cyclical. Right before my deadline for a board meeting, I put in more hours than I do about a week after the board meeting is pretty intense. And then I have about a month or so when it's pretty quiet. I was in Portugal for 3 weeks in November this year, and I picked that time because it was we left about a week after the board meeting. And I knew that would be a slow time, so I could afford to be away for a while and do very little that my deputy couldn't cover. I hope that gives some idea, and then these people will have their own perspectives.
And we only reached out to her like 5 times while she was on vacation. That's not, I said it funny, but it's really true. So, and that it really does depend on what office position you take. If you take a local group night marshal position, practice times, a lot of work, not practice time, not so much except for report time. If you're a local seneschal or a kingdom seneschal, lots more work, depending on the time. Board member, for me, I can't speak for the rest of them or for Pug, but on a regular week, that's not a week with a conference call or a board meeting or leading up to a board meeting, then I might spend 6 hours reading email that week in 10, 15-minute blocks or writing emails. If one of my kingdoms around the ombudsman, if the world blows up, it might be 10, 15, 20 hours that I'm reading emails and talking to Liz or whatnot to find out about what's going on. Going in the week for a conference call, when our agenda is set and we know what we're looking at, I probably spend 10 to 15 hours reading emails and learning about what's going on so that I can speak to it. Leading up to a board meeting, the month of the board meeting, probably 15 to 20 hours a week, reading up on what all the sanctions that we have, all the proposals that we have. My other ombudsman responsibilities are the marshalate and the peerage committee, which may have nothing going on that week, or we may have a meeting. And the marshalate is really changing right now, so that's a constant thing. If I'm going to a planning session, I don't have any problems talking to Pug about what we need to talk about based on our agenda. The day of the public meeting where we're all on camera and all of the SCA has the chance to look at us, my spoon level goes way up. And right now, spoon level way up, burning them like like they were free, and they're not. So it all depends. So
I can speak to that from my office. I did a time and motion study just to figure out how much time I spend doing DEIB work for the society, and I easily spend 20 to 25 hours a week doing my job just normally on top of my mundane job. I actually really enjoy that part. The part that I don't enjoy, the part that's the hardest about my jobs, people are mean, very, very mean. I'm right here. I've had this conversation with Pug. He won't stop being mean. People are mean to each other, mean to me, mean to my deputies, mean to DEIB officers at the kingdom level. That's the hardest part of my job, is the meanness. And I'm not gonna lie, it's a struggle, especially right now for me. But I would be remiss if I didn't say that the part that is hardest is the emotional component, because I deeply, deeply care about equity and inclusion. And the meanness is the hardest part for me.
I'd have to say that about my job too, just seeing, you see the gamut, and it's a tiny portion of people. Most of the people in the SCA are wonderful folks, and they do their best and they mean well, but you see in my job, you see the lower end of it really frequently. And some people have said to me, how do you put up with it? Well, a very good friend of mine back in Callantyre a number of years ago, when I think I was Kingdom Seneschal at the time, said something about that I had a finely honed sense of the ridiculous. He wasn't wrong. I have a sense of humor that causes me, even with certain things that are, I look at it and I can see the part of it that is really, we're all getting really upset over this, aren't we? Why? I can't say that to people, but because they really are upset, and I recognize that, but still. But yeah, I would have to agree with Charles on that. And seeing some of the things people, especially online,
It's the emotional.
say things online that they would never say to someone's face, and seeing all of that is a hard part of the job.
Yeah, it is. And all of these are at minimum a part-time job. I think Shep kind of downplayed some of it, because it's not just the time reading it, you've got to process it, move it forward and everything. And the meanness is there. As board members, the best thing we get to do is recognize a group's creation by saying, yes, the Seneschal can do that. Everything else is just mostly either business to move the business forward, or the meanness that Charles brought up. And that is emotionally draining. There's not all board members that come into it understand that when they're coming in, and it really tears them apart.
I didn't understand, not to the degree that it is.
So, you done?
Yeah.
So I didn't want to step on you.
No.
You said something that made me really want to So I've had the great fortune of being crowned before in my kingdom. And sorry, I haven't had the great fortune of being crowned in my kingdom before. And one of the great things about being crowned or territorial baron or heirs is you get to see the newcomers come up and get their awards, get their recognition. We don't get to see that very often, right? We are seen as the bad guys because that's part of our job, to make the not so great decisions, the decisions that take someone from the SCA. And so, yes, that meanness is there. We have to deal with that on a daily basis. When I say I might spend 6 hours in an off week reading emails. I have to live all of those emails. All those emails take a toll one way or the other on us. And that's for all of us. And I'm not saying, woe is us. I'm saying that's just the truth of any job. But the thing that revives me is someone having the courage to come up here and ask that question of us. And thank you very much for doing it.
Thank you all for the response and for your time. And I want to say thank you, Master Charles, for all the work you do as the mom of kids who are LGBTQ play in the society and are here today. Thank you so much for everything that you do. We really do appreciate it. We appreciate all of you. Thank you.
I want to throw in one more quick word because I made it sound so negative when I was addressing what Charles said. When I applied for this job, one of the things that I saw as a goal when I was a Kingdom Seneschal quite a while ago, I worked under 2 different society seneschals that were absolutely marvelous, had my back at every moment. They were fantastic. And one of my goals was to try and, as much as I could, reproduce that experience for the Kingdom Seneschals that I worked with. And the most rewarding part of this job has been working with those, there's been more than 20 because some of them turned over, working with some of the most remarkable, hardest working people in the SCA, which are your Kingdom Seneschals.
So I want to apologize for being a little emotional. There's some stuff that went down for me this week and quite frankly almost broke me. And it was meanness. So sorry, I'm a little emotional, but I'm going through a lot right now because of this office. So. Hi.
My name is Tam Tao-Yu of the Barony of Altavia.
I'm sorry,
Sorry. My name is Tam Tao-Yu of the Barony of Altavia in the Kingdom of Kaid. I would also like to thank you for your efforts as a visible and vocal queer trans person of color. What you're doing is not unseen.
Thank you for being here.
Of course. I booked this for eons before this shit happened. Yeah. My question does not pertain to that. And I believe this issue was brought up at Kensick last year. Is there any word on bringing society-wide JSTOR access to paying members?
It is being investigated. I don't remember the last status. We've had some challenges with the agreements with the JSTOR and the Art Store folks. Just communicating back and forth. But we're still hopeful that that is going to become a reality.
There's no timeline though.
There is not a timeline at this point just because we're having problems communicating.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for asking.
Hi. I made it back.
I had a follow-up, but then Charles answered it, so I pulled out.
Okay.
Yes, this is a new question. Hi, Cormac Moore, formerly from Kaid, currently in carrying the Three Mountains. The proposal for the Shadowlands office, creating the society level Shadowlands, or the society level DI or corporate level DIB society greater office for Shadowlands, brings into question a lot of the questions of the difference between a corporate and society office and how much power and autonomy those offices have. I have worked for numerous boards of directors and on numerous organizations where you have the board who has oversight over the offices, and then the offices themselves, the executive offices, whether they're society or corporate, which usually have a large amount of autonomy and can do a lot of their things. And it's only the board going, yeah, looks good. Keep on doing what you're doing. The SCA board of directors has a lot of really hard control over their society and corporate offices. And I know that it's created a lot of tension and a lot of inability of things to move along. If an executive officer is able to make a decision on the fly, which the Seneschal is able to do, fantastic, and then just get the board's approval afterwards, then things can move very, very quickly. But if an office has to wait until the next board meeting for approval, and then the board might not approve it and then have to second guess it again, it creates a lot of delays. And we were talking about how slowly things move. If at the society level, the things move at the board's pace, then everything takes at least 3 months. Is there anything that you are considering or that you would consider at the board level to give the society and corporate officers greater autonomy to do their job, subject to just the sign off of the board as opposed to their full on analysis, which makes your guys miserable as well? Yes. As well.
The topic you're bringing up has been a ebbs and flows over the duration of the SCA. Some of it depends on the people in those positions and the trust the board has in them. Some of it is the control nature of some board members. Just being honest. Some of them want more control than others, and that happens with any corporation. We have been, since I've been on the board, which has only been 2 years now, moving more towards giving autonomy to the specific location that it should be, and only stepping in on daily business, what we call daily business anyway, that them making the decisions to move their office when we see a problem with the particular individual in the position. And then we start talking about what we do for performance improvement, things like that. So we're trying to act more like a corporation. Charles almost has full autonomy. He's got to come to us for money and when we got to change rapport and stuff like that. But that isn't necessarily the case with all offices at this point. The society ones, I don't know that we have as much influence into those because we trust the president and the people upstream from the particular society position to handle that and only bring it to us if it needs to be.
And that's pretty much what I was going to say too. The one thing that I want to make clear, every office, every position, every crown, heirs, baronial, every office is in a way a corporate office, even if it is game facing, in that you are responsible for what you do, right? And we have to take notice of that if something goes wrong, right? If we, generally speaking, we try not to get involved in any office unless we get information that someone has messed up or done something, and then we try to push that to their office, society office, so that they can deal with it. If it continues to come to us, then something's gone horribly wrong. Generally speaking, you shouldn't be dealing with any specific office unless A, something's gone wrong, or B, it changes something with rapport. If there's a change that needs to be made, or policy, be that a society handbook, whatever level, because those have to be approved as well. But in a perfect world, would never have to ask Charles anything that he's doing in his office, as long as it doesn't impact our policies or corporate documents.
Great.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Cormac, are you good? Did you get your answer? Okay. We are at time. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. I'm very grateful for the questions. I'm glad that we had the opportunity to talk. Again, please feel free to reach out or grab us as you see us here at this event. We're happy to talk. And I'm very grateful for y'all for being here. And I want to thank you so much, Silent Herald, so much. Exactly. And thank you all for being here. And now we will get on with the rest of our coronation. And, and again, thank you all for being here. Thank you.
Yeah. Hopefully,
Thank you.